Shalom, shalom. Hello, hello.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Herman. Shalom, young man. How we doing?
Let me, hold on. Let me just lower the volume here.
Okie dokie.
So, to say the least.
To say the least. Okay.
To say the very least. So.
Yeah, we had a couple of real challenging days here. Definitely. The Lord
Join
was
the club.
very gracious over the last night. I had this situation. Shalom, William. Good to see you there. Shalom, shalom. Okay. Well, welcome once again to the Midweek MIDrash. If you're new, if you've been with us, either way, we welcome you. And as we've been telling you week by week, we are doing the MIDrash. MIDrash is a word which refers to a biblical interpretation study. It's an exposition, okay? Referred to as a biblical exegesis, if you will. A study. And that's what we endeavored to do. Psalm 119 has always been an intriguing monument of scripture. It's 176 verses, 8 verses for each of the 22 letters in Hebrew. Each verse in these groupings begin with a word beginning with the letter that it honors. And today is Tsade. Tsade, which is number 18 in the pantheon of words. And the numerical value of Tsade, I believe, is it, what is it, 90?
Yep, it is 90 indeed.
Kidoki. Alrighty. And we, week by week, we go through this understanding of the fact that the eternal Yahuwah, the Lord, your PC is running at its best. It keeps blinking at me. Okay. Seems to be okay so far. Where was I? Okay, there are 8 different words that describe the form of communication that the Lord Yahuwah, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the Eternal One, declares the laws, the testimonies, the statutes, the precepts, the decrees, the judgments, the commandments, the word. So all these different variants are in these couplings, and each one tells a story of triumph over odds, the desire to grow closer to the communicator, the one who breathes the word to us. And so again, we're very grateful for that reality, and that we desire to have his instruction, his Torah, which again, all these different variations are describing in legal terms, if you will, because this is Torah, referred to as law, but it is also primarily instruction. Torah, based on the word yara, which means to zing along like with a pointed finger or like an arrow. It is direct. It accomplishes that which it sets out to do, as the prophet Isaiah, Yeshayahu, indicates that the word does not return void. It accomplishes everything it sets out to do. And the Messiah is the goal at which the Torah aims, according to Romans, the book of Romans 10, verse 4. Messiah is the bullseye. He is the goal. He is the ideal. He is the standard of our behavior. And Torah guides us in the path that we need to go. It is a light for our path. It illuminates our way, the derech, and the derech emunah, the way of truth, is one of the words that we used to describe the early believers, the derech, the way, ha-derech. So again, in this amazing psalm, we don't have an authorship attributed to it. There's no superscript. There's no reason for it. It is simply a majestic piece of ancient Hebraic literature, which is filled with amazing prophetic insight, as well as instruction that guides us and keeps us safe against the dangers of the world. And so we come to the letter Tsade, and this our 18th letter. And here we have in our board, you got to turn that a little because it's right in the light. Okay. So we're going to look at some vocabulary, and then we're going to open up in prayer for the official study. So again, what we hope that you get out of this is a deeper understanding. This is not, it is and it isn't. We want you to know a little Hebrew, or a lot of Hebrew if you can, but it is an instructional, but it is also to get a deeper understanding of the communicator, the one who speaks to us. And we have the Tsade right there. And that's the final, that's what it looks like at the end of a word. Tsade. And here's how it's spelled. Tsade, Tsade, Tsade. And one of the words where we see what's the matter? Okay. The Tsade at the end of a word is eitz, which is right here. This little word at the end, a two-letter word, eitz, and that is tree. Tree. And I mean the type that grow, not the number that follows two. That's tree also, but we're talking about the tree that grows in the forest and that has life. Eitz ha'chaim, the living tree, the tree of life. So that's the eitz. That's the eitz, but that's the Tsade. That's the beautiful letter. And if you think of it, of all the letters, Tsade is probably the most distinct from what we're used to in the English language, because we have Beit is a B, Gimel is a G sound, G, and so on. Dalit is a D sound. Pene, which was last week, is a P. Without the dagesh in the center, it's an F sound. But Tsade is a very interesting letter. Tzidkenu, the righteousness. It's a lot of really good words that we get from this. And this is Tzadik, which is a righteous one. One who is righteous is a Tzadik. Okay? And this is Tzadek. Tzedek, rather. Tzedek is the idea of justice or righteousness. So it's a variation of those same three letters, so there's the yod in addition to that. But Tzedek, and this is Tzama. Tzama, which is thirst. I'm feeling a little bit now. I'm going to have a little swig of water in a moment. Tzama, and this is Tziva. Tziva, which is commanded. Tziva. And this is the eitz. And this is Tsara. Tsara. Shalom, shalom. All right. And again, scrupulously honest. All right. If you wouldn't mind throwing your name out there so I can say, how you doing? And you are scrupulously honest. I hope that we all pass that test. Okay. Sarah, as I said, is commanded. Sarah, wait 1 second. That was Sarah. 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 Eitz. Sarah. Okay, where am I? Lost that letter. Oh, Tsara, okay. Tsara and Sar both mean essentially the same thing. It's trouble, distress. So hopefully we won't have too much need to know that word, okay? Hopefully we will avoid that word and focus on the eitz, on the tree, okay? This is Tsira, which is a hornet, a buzzy, hopefully not a murder hornet from Japan, but a hornet nevertheless. Okay. Tsira. Okay, then we have the Ra'a, Ratsa, which is desire, to want, a verb. Okay, so it's Ratsa, okay, and Sire, which is hornet. Some letters lend themselves to a lot of a great extensive vocabulary. As I said, the Tsade has a lot of important words, mostly connected with to be a tzaddik, all about righteousness. So that is our study on the vocabulary on eitz. And what I have to this side of the screen is the first word of each of the 8 verses that we're going to be going through in just a few minutes. Just a couple. And again, we thank you for joining us. And if you have the phone conference number, once we sign off of YouTube, we have another 20 minutes or so where you're welcome to baffle us with your questions or comments or whatever you have on your mind. And we welcome that. Okay. So before we go into the text, I want to ask our friend Gilbert to open in prayer with us, please. Shabbat Shalom. No, that's Shabbat Shalom, but Shalom. Gilbert, are you out there? Oh, Gilbert might not even be there. Pat, would you do us the honors of opening in prayer? Pat?
God, in the name of Yeshua, we come together this Wednesday night via this phone line and thank you that we have the freedom to do so. We honor you, we praise you, and you are so worthy to be praised. Just be with us as we open up your word, study it, and let us, with all our soul, mind, and heart, listen what your word has to say to us. And I thank you and I praise you for things. In whose name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat. Herman, welcome. As always, any opening statement you'd like to make before we dive into the text?
Yeah, I'll give a few. We know that Psalm 119 as a whole is a poem that exalts the Torah. It's an exaltation of the Torah. And what we have here in Tsade is a microcosm of the whole psalm. And what I mean by that is that poet throughout the section Tsade praises the word and exalts the word. For instance, upright are your judgments, your testimonies are righteous and very faithful.
Mm-hmm.
My enemies have forgotten your words, but I haven't forgotten them. Your word is very pure. Your law is truth. Your commandments are my delight. Your righteousness, the righteousness of your testimony is everlasting. So what we see in this section is a microcosm of the whole psalm. The section here, Tsade, is an exaltation of the word, of the eternal word of the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
Willard Louie.
Hello.
Yes.
It's Willard Louie.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name.
Willard.
Willard. Welcome, Willard. Welcome, Willard. We're just beginning our study in Psalm 119. Our friend Herman is just describing Psalm 119. We're going to do a reading of 137, verse to 144, and then I'm going to go into the Hebrew text and get as much out with our excavating tools as possible. Okay. And Herman, just to finish your statements.
Yes. So as I said, we find here a microcosm of the whole Psalm 119 in that section Tsade is exalting the Torah. Another little thing that I see in this section is the word tzaddik is mentioned 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to be a theme, of course, and Tsade being the letter tzaddik being noted 5 times. So that is one of the threads that runs through this section. And just one more thing, we know that Psalm 119 has 8 major words, principal words, right, which are which are the statutes, the testimonies, the word, which is whether it is dabar or imra.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that there are 8 of them, 4 and 4. This section almost has the complete set. It almost has the complete set of the 8. Unfortunately, it is missing chok, which are statutes, and it mentions edut, testimonies, 2 times. So it almost has the complete section.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's just a little introduction there that I have.
Okay. And again, I neglected to show this. This is the Paleo-Hebraic form of the Tsade also. I neglected to show that earlier. And sometimes it's similar, sometimes it's way different. But again, what we have in today's Hebrew, block Hebrew, is actually Aramaic letters, and it's what Messiah would have been familiar with 2,000 years ago. and so on. So we have this preserved in the language, and again, we have all the vowel points preserved for us in the Masoretic text, and we base our understanding on the Masoretic as well as the Septuagint Greek translation from the Hebrew into the Greek, which is actually an older form. So let us get started then. Okay, so we begin with verse 137, and as our friend Herman just stated, Tzaddik is the first word. Tzaddik, which is the righteous. Okay, and it says, Tzaddik ata, righteous are you, Yahuwah, Yud-He-Vav-He, Vayashar, and right. Yashar is to be right, is to be upright, to be reputable, to be of good character. Righteous, you, Yahuwah, and right, Mishpatecha, the judgments of you, your judgments. Whenever you have that echa ending, it's usually referring to you. And mishpat is the idea of the judgments, faithful judgments. Judgments are verdicts as the sentences go forth. And we read the sentences, and we know the sentences that are prescribed by the eternal Yahuwah. So righteous are you, Yahuwah, and right are your judgments. Consistent, you are holy, and that which comes forth from you are holy. Just like he is kadosh, he is holy, and his Shabbat is holy. And Isaiah 58 says, when we find delight in the Shabbat, we find delight in him ultimately. So it's important that we get a good grip on this. Okay. And the next word is tzivita. Tzivita. Interesting. And tzivita is based on the word is tzava, which is to, let's see, we have the idea of a command, a charge, appointment, a bid. And in one translation, it's you lay down, tzadek, you lay down righteous, you command righteousness. You have commanded that which is righteous. Okay? Edotecha, your testimonies. You have laid down your righteous testimonies. Ve'emunah. Emunah is trustworthy. It comes from emunah, which is to be faithful, to be established, to be firm, to be resolute. So emunah is faith, but it implies an immovability. When we think of faith, we just think of, oh, it's nice to believe in things. It's nice to have, quote unquote, faith in something without really understanding that faith is to be immovable, to have your heels dug in and not movable. I shall not be moved, based upon emunah, based upon the faithfulness, trustworthiness of, in this case, the testimonies of you, me'od, fully. Okay? So you lay down your righteous testimonies, and they're fully trustworthy. And your testimonies, which you have commanded, are righteous and very faithful, very trustworthy. Emunah is the word. And emunah, also, you can tie that in with amen, emet, all these words of truth, of value, of faithfulness. Amen. It is so. It is resolute. It is absolutely. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. Let's see. Okay, so let us go to the next verse, 139. Okay, just going to move a little bit this way. Sim tat teni. Sim tateni. Sim tateni, right here. Sim tateni. Sim tateni, which I would think means me, my. Okay. Sim tateni, which is translated roughly, she wears me out. She consumes me, based on the word samat, which is to consume, to cut off, to destroy, to fully envelop. Okay, she wears me out. What does? Kinati, which is the zeal, my zeal. And the word for zeal is kana, which is a zeal or to erect, again, to build a standard. Okay, the zeal of me wears me out. Okay, which is an expression of exhaustion. The zeal has consumed me. Okay, your zeal wears me out, consumes me. Okay, ki shach hu shachu. Okay, ki shachu, for they ignore. Okay, or to ignore, to mislay, to be oblivious, to forget, which is shachach. Okay, um, my zeal wears me out because they ignore. Okay, who ignores? Okay, devarech, we have the word devar there. For they ignore the words of you. Who does? Tsare, tsarai, which is my enemies, those who stand opposed to me. So as we stand firm, and our zeal causes us to be absolute, to stand fully erect, not bowed over, but fully confirmed. Okay. The zeal wears me out, for they ignore the words of you. My enemies ignore the words of me. My zeal has consumed me because my enemies have forgotten your words. So our zeal is raised. It's like, because we see people who have rejected your words. So our zeal is just that much stronger when we see those who reject, when we see those who compromise. And Messiah said that your zeal has consumed me when he was writing into Yerushalayim, remember? So in this case, where they ignore the words of my enemies, ignore salvation. How can we avoid so great a salvation? It's got to be of our own volition, because the eternal Elohim is always looking to benefit us, that we should seek him with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, that we develop this love, this two-way love, that he loves us so much. He initiated the love contact, but he requires us to love him back. The first and greatest commandment is to love the eternal Yahweh with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it: we shall love our neighbors ourselves. Upon these two hang all the Toratot, all the commandments, which doesn't mean that it replaces it. It simply means that these two commandments are a distillation of the fullness of understanding, the giving of the instruction. That with these two commandments, we basically have it all covered. If we would just honor Yahuwah, the eternal Yah, and also our neighbor, that's it. Everything else is covered by that. That we are respectful of each other, that we honor each other, and that we walk together in truth. Okay, so we go to the next verse, which is 140. Okay, Serufa. Interesting word. Serufa, which is the one being tested. Okay, Saraf is to be tested, to fuse, to be refined, to purge away unnecessary. In other words, we're being tested to be genuine. We purge away that which is uncertain, because everything so far is all about absolute, being faithful, being righteous, being upright, being zealous. Your word is pure. Okay, Tsirufa, the ones being tested, im ratecha, which is your word, or the word of you. And again, that's more the spoken promise word that is offered to us. Okay, the ones being tested, the promise of your word, me'od, thoroughly. Okay, thoroughly, purity takes place, because there's a refining process. The one being tested is implying the purity, the high level of purity. Just like if you buy alcohol, you buy it at whatever proof it is, which is a greater level of quality. And just like the other thing I was thinking also is olive oil. You have the virgin olive oil and you have extra virgin olive oil. So you have all these different terminologies for quality Okay, so the ones being tested, pure is your word, is the promise. Thoroughly pure is the imra, is that ve'avdecha, and your servant. The word eved is right there. Avdecha aheva, which is he loves her. He loves her. So the word is very pure. Therefore, your servant loves her, loves it, loves the purity of the word, loves its faithfulness, its stability, its strength, its ability to change us, to convert us, to turn us from darkness to light, to cause us to be walking in truth and not darkness. As we've talked about this before, there are the paths, and the Torah illuminates the path, and it's up to us whether we keep it or don't. And the psalmist expresses frustration from time to time about those who reject it, those who do not desire it, and it's a sad thing, the zeal is consuming because my enemies have forsaken your words, have forgotten your words, have no room for your words. How's that? The next verse begins with Tsa'ir, okay? Tsa'ir, which is lowly. It comes from the word meaning little or few or least. Lowly, anochi, I am lowly, okay? I am lowly. Vanivtse, and I am the one being despised. Batsa is to scorn, to hold somebody as being vile and of ill repute, okay? Little and lowly am I. I'm despised. Pekudecha, but your precepts, lo shachachti, but your precepts I will not forget. And it's the same word that we used in verse 139. Let's see. Which is the word?
You're correct. In verse 139, the psalmist's enemies have forgotten the words.
Right.
He has.
Okay, the word that's translated ignore or the forgotten. It's a laziness that has a weakness behind it. I will not forget. I will not ignore your precepts. I might be small and despised, yet I do not forget your precepts. So again, he builds. He says, your word is very pure, therefore your servant loves it. I'm small and despised, yet I do not forget your precepts. I do not put them aside. I do not neglect them. I walk in them. And so that's again, the psalmist has the solution for all his ills. And as he comes to the conclusion of these 8 verses of each of the letters, he comes through with his strength reinforced and emboldened, and more sure than he was as he entered into it. Okay, so there you go. We don't forget. We do not forget. It's not appropriate that we forget the things that were given to us and to bless us. It's like you're talking to somebody, right? And you're telling them this and that, and can you pray for my wife? She's feeling rather poorly, and my son is this and this and that. And you say, could you remember to pray for me? And the person says, huh? I'm sorry, were you talking to me? Well, I just poured out my heart about my various situations that are going on in my life, and I needed you to be a brother to shoulder my burden with me. And you say, huh? I was busy. I was thinking about other things. Sometimes you could be talking with somebody and it's not penetrating. They're just looking at you, thinking of what they're going to say and what amazing things are going to come out of their mouths, rather than saying, I need to be with this brother. I need to support this brother or this sister. We need to shoulder the burden together. And whatever I can do, however I can impact his situation, I will be more than delighted to do that. So let us not forget, let us not ignore, and let us press on and be faithful. Be faithful in all the things that you do. It applies across the board. It's not just in your Bible study, because our Bible study actually is much more than, looking up concordance words or reading different texts from different translations. It's living it. It's living the word. How are you living the word today? You can stay locked up in your room and do all the reading you want, and you're no closer to Yahuwah, the Eternal One. In fact, you're creating distance by your lack of involvement. Was Messiah standoffish? Was Messiah distant? Was Messiah, kind of indifferent? He went to different regions, and it says, and they rushed him, and they desired him to heal them, and he healed them all, it says. So I think he was very actively pro-communication. That's why Torah, Messiah, the living Torah, he wants us to hear, Shema. He wants us to hear, to listen, to understand, to comprehend, and to walk thereby. Walk in the truth. Walk in what needs to keep us alive. If we truly love him that much, we need his word like we need the oxygen. If we walk with that mindset that we want to reflect the character of Messiah and walk even as he walked, we would have a different perspective on the world. There's a lot of craziness going on in the world, and we got to make sure that we're not of it, that we are not partially, well, I agree with some of that, but, I want to join this organization because the name is good and it seems to want to help people. Yeah, but read the bottom line. Read what you're getting into, and don't become unequally yoked with unbelievers. We can't afford to mess up. We have to maintain the purity and consistency that we're seeing here referred to. That it is a consistency, very pure. Your word is very pure. Therefore, your servant loves it. It's pure. It's genuine. That's why I love it. It's like a commercial for a product, and they have people who testify. Yeah, well, I was suffering from this thing, and my knees were giving me trouble, and I tried it, and before long, I was running again. And they're endorsing a product because it works, and they want to tell people about it because it's going to help other people. So again, your word is pure. Therefore, your servant loves it. Is there a mystery in that? I don't think so. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's very straightforward. Okay. And we go to the next verse, which I believe is 142, which was Tsade. And yes, there are a lot of words that are a mouthful. Like tzaddik, when you combine it with other words to create a concept, like for instance, we have tzaddik, which is righteous, but this is your righteousness, tzaddik, tzadikatecha, your righteousness, tzaddik, righteous is righteous, your righteousness is righteous, okay? He's got a point he's making here, okay? It's righteous, le'olam, your righteousness is everlasting righteousness. It doesn't have an expiration date. It doesn't become out of fashion. It doesn't stop being relevant. It doesn't stop assisting you in your walk. It doesn't stop being what it is, which is the breathed word, the inspired word, which is there to correct us, not just to agree with us. A lot of people think that the word is just there to agree with you. Oh, of course you got it where it worked out. No, sometimes you got to back up. Oh, I thought this is what I was saying. I'm sorry. Sometimes you need to be corrected. We need to be corrected. We need to learn. We need to grow. And if we refuse the correction, we stay in our error. We stay in our error stubbornly and with pride. We need to be willing to listen, to prove all things, test all things, accept the good, reject the bad. We also need to walk by faith, not by sight. And we need to be faithful. We need to be faithful more than we can ever in this life so far, because we're going to be more faithful tomorrow. Each day we need to grow in our faithfulness, in our emunah. We need to have that as our goal. Not saying, gee, last year I was so much more on top of things. Saying, wow, I feel so inspired. I feel so strong. And again, we're not talking about pride. We're not talking about arrogance. But we do our own inventory. We do our own checkups. Check under the hood. Check the Earl. Check the oil, the transmission fluid. Check all these things. Check the tires. Check it all out. We need to be inspected. We need to be inspection. That's why search me, O Yahuwah, search me, O Lord, and know my heart. Try me. If there's anything that's not pure, please get rid of it. If I need to be corrected in any areas, please let me yield to your teaching, your guidance. Mashiach is Rabboni. He is our teacher, and we need to acknowledge him, okay? So your righteousness is everlasting righteousness. The Toratecha emet, and your Torah and your law is true. So how's that for a beautiful statement? Your righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and your Torah is truth. Pilate says, what is truth? What is truth? A lot of people finding truth, misplacing truth, having half-truths, partial truths, and none of them can be true unless it's completely true. And we need to worship him in spirit and in truth, absolute truth. We need to be our best at all times. We need to be faithful and strong in him. Allow him to build us up in every conceivable way that we can do that. So his righteousness is everlasting. It never stops. And the Torah is true. And your Torah is true, Toratecha. Your commandments, your laws are eternal. They are true, and they are not fading away. Okay? And here we have a combination word here, which is tsar. Okay. We need to be... Okay. Tsar u-ma-tzok. Tsar u-ma-tzok. Tsar u-ma-tzok. Tsar u-ma-tzok. Okay, trouble and distress. Okay, so again, let's not learn those words too there's a lot better words to be lingering on than tsar and distress. It's like tohu vavohu, and confusion and disorder, as it says in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, right? So tsar and tsores is another word for trouble. Okay, tsar, matzok, and distress. Mitza uni. They came upon me, or they've taken hold of me. So the psalmist is in trouble. He's doing everything right, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of a hiccup going on here. Trouble and anguish have overtaken me. They've come upon me. They've gotten a grip on me, and we're not to let the adversary have a foothold in our lives. And very often we give him that opportunity, and we unawares sometimes, but by decisions, poor decisions that we make, we give him an opportunity to influence our thinking, into thinking poorly. Again, we need to be pure, not poor, in our thinking, in our assessments of situations. So trouble and distress, they come upon me. They have a firm grip on me. Mitzvotecha, the commandments of you, sha'ashua, they are my delights. Sha'ashua is my enjoyment, my pleasure. Your commandments are my pleasure, are my delights. Trouble and anguish have overtaken me, yet your commandments are my delights. So I know that this is a temporary situation I'm going through. I know this is only temporary, because we already said your righteousness is an everlasting righteousness. Your Torah is truth. Trouble and anguish have overtaken me temporarily, is the implication. Yet your commandments are my delights. They are my food. Messiah says, my food is to do the will of my Father who sent me. My food is to hear and to do the word, the commandments. Okay, the commandments. Okay, the mitzvotecha. Your commandments are my delight. Are my delight. Do we say that to the Lord enough? Do we say that your word is a delight for me? To study your word, to live your word is joy to me, is absolute joy to me. Do we express our love for him on a regular basis? Like with my wife, do I say that I love you during the course of the day? When we say good night, I love you, bye, I love you. And it has to be more than just words, right? It's got to be the full relationship, and we have to work together. We partner this. Messiah says, take my yoke. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. And the word for light is Christus, which is a very, very close to the word Messiah. It's anointed. So Messiah is offering us, because the yoking of oxen are a big, strong ox, and me, or fill in the blank, you. So that strong ox is going to guide us, and we're going to be yoked with him. And the yoking is an anointing, because he's showing us the way to do it, and we're going to learn directly from him. And it's going to be a time of anointing, because we're going where he goes. We're thinking as he thinks, and it is a blessed thing. And pretty soon, and that's what happened in a lot of countries. They'll take the old veteran ox and they'll yoke him with a new ox, just learning the ropes, and they will be yoked together. And pretty soon that young ox is going to know what to do, going to follow it, and eventually he will disciple the next ox down the line. So again, we need to have that idea that to be with Messiah is to be yoked with him. What he does, we do. How he thinks, we think. Oh, but he's Messiah. I'm just a sinner saved by grace. Don't ever find yourself saying that. Just like a Gentile believer, which means I'm a pagan believer. Now, we're either of Yisrael, of the natural bloodlines, or we are a part of the Commonwealth. We are not of the world. In the world, but not of it. We don't have our birthright in the world any longer. Our birthright and our heritage is in Hashemayim, in the heavens. So we need to be faithful to the one who is faithful to us. Trouble and anguish have overtaken me, yet your commandments are my delights. Amen. And we go to the last verse, which again has the word for the week. Okay, we just got to come over here, right at the bottom, next to Daddy's thumb over here, which is tzedek. 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 Okay, which is right, or righteousness, righteous. Okay, tzedek. We want to be right. And to be right is to be righteous. And to be righteous is to be right, to be correct, right? You're righteous, that means you're being correct. You're doing what needs to be done. You have said Cain, you said yes to Yahuwah. You haven't said lo, which means no. And you haven't said maybe. There's no maybe. Let your yes be yes, let your no be no. Beyond that, we give the adversary an opportunity to mess us up. Okay, so let's not do that. Sadiq, edotecha, okay. Right are the testimonies of you, leolam, to forever. Okay, the righteousness of your testimonies is everlasting, is forever. Leolam, to forever, beyond the vanishing point. Okay. Havineni, make me understand. Bain is the word for understanding, which means to separate mentally and distinguish. It's to consider, to regard, to be intelligent, to be prudent. Make me understand this. Make me prudent. And again, it's interesting also to think of the separation. Yes, no. Prove all things, hold to the good, reject the bad. Oh, I've never heard that before. Okay, prove all things, test all things. Don't take my word for it. Okay? Right are your testimonies to forever, or they're everlasting. So make me understand, make me comprehend, and to distinguish that I may live. And we have chai in there, and to live, asher to be, I am that I am, okay? That I may live, give me understanding, and I shall live. Your righteousness of your testimony is everlasting. Give me understanding, and I will live. Okay? Trouble and anguish have overtaken me, yet your commandments are my delights. The righteousness of your testimonies is eternal, is everlasting. Give me the understanding, and I shall live. I won't pass. I won't fall apart here, but I will live. Okay, so that is Psalm 119, 137 to 144. We're going word by word, letter by letter, and getting a deeper understanding of things. And Herman, it's your time to kick in.
Well, before I do so, I don't know if someone else would like to share a few things.
Yeah. Anyone on the phone? Any questions or any comments?
Okay. That's okay. I'll share a few things then. First of all, I want to welcome Willard and William, of course. Shalom to William, scrupulously honest, and everyone else. Blessings to you all. As I said earlier, tzedek is a key word in this section. I said that it was mentioned 5 times. In reality, it's 6 times. It's mentioned in a slightly different form, but nonetheless, it is the word.
Yeah.
So I would like to share a few grammatical points, as always, and if I have time, maybe I'll share a little bit on the poetry. So regarding tzedek, tzedek is a particular type of noun. It is called a segulate noun. And the reason why it's called a segulate noun is because it is pointed with segols. Segols being the 3 dots that look like a little billiard set. But for those that have the Hebrew text in front of them, if you would look at verse 138, you will see the word tzedek there. So it is considered a segulate noun. It has the segols. And one of the characteristics of the segulate nouns is that it is accented on the first syllable. Hebrew words are normally accented on the last syllable. But when it comes to segulate nouns, they are accented, the stress is in the first syllable. So it's tzedek, not tzedek. It is eretz, not eretz. It is melech, not melech. So these are segulate nouns, and these are very famous, well-known segulate nouns. Eretz, melech, emet. These are words that are pointed with the segol. So it's a particular class of noun called a segulate noun, and they are accented on the first syllable. Now, not all segulate nouns are accented with, appointed with segols. There are other types of segulate nouns, like the word ohel, which means a tent. There we have an O class beginning the syllable ohel, and it is again accented in the first syllable, on the first syllable. So that's a particular type of noun, segulate nouns. Now, in verse 140, we have a very interesting phenomenon here. We have the very last, for those that have the Hebrew text in front of them, it would be really nice, you'll be able to relate. The very last letter of verse 140 has a dot inside the hey.
Mm-hmm.
As you all have heard me say many times in the past, the hey is one of the guttural letters, and gutturals do not take the dagish. Remember that the guttural letters are the aleph, the hey, the chet, the ayin, and sometimes the resh. Sometimes it functions as a guttural as well. Here we have a hey, and it has a dot inside. However, this dot is not a dagish forte or a dagish lene. It is called a mapik. A mapik. And the function of the mapik is to bring out the hey. It's an actual vowel. So when you will read the word, you have to sound out the hey. A hey vaha. You have that final at the end. Okay, so that is called a mapik. And depending on the context, and of course, and on the word, it usually carries the feminine, it's a feminine ending, her or it being feminine, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it is referring to the imra, which is also feminine. So in verse 140, it says, your word, your imra, which is feminine, is very pure. Therefore, your servant loves it. It loves her, but really it in the feminine. So there is another grammatical point there. This This is not a dagish in the guttural. It is called a mapik, and we see it throughout the Hebrew scriptures.
Excellent. Okay.
Any comments on that, Bob? Or anyone else? Okay. Well, let's jump then just quickly into a few poetic elements. These are very straightforward, not super duper poetic elements, but nonetheless they are there, and it's good to review them. And I'm hoping that as we continue to go on, I can speak a little more on other poetic devices. In verse 137, we have what's called a synonymous parallel. And this is something that's very, very common throughout the Hebrew poetry. And with the synonymous parallel is what happens here is that you have word pairs that are basically saying the same thing. So in verse 137, it says, "Righteous are you, O Lord, and upright are your judgments." So notice that the word pairs being righteous and judgments, righteous and upright, and you, Lord, and your judgments. So these are word pairs. They function as a synonymous parallel. In 139, we have a little hyperbole going on here, where the poet feels like he's been done in, he's wasted, he's dead. So we have a little hyperbole going on here, where it says, "My zeal has consumed me. I'm done in. I'm dead." So we have a little hyperbole here going on in verse 139. And then, of course, in verse 139 and in verse 141, we have a contrast where one party does not forget what the other party forgets. And I touched on that before, where it says, "My zeal has consumed me because my enemies have forgotten your words." They forgot. But in verse 141, he contrasts himself. He says, "I am small and despised, yet I do not forget your precepts." So here the poet is contrasting himself with those who forget the Lord's words. And just one more quickly, in verse 140, we have a word here, serufah, which is translated refined. I'm going to read 140. Your word is very pure, or refined, as you mentioned, Bob. And the idea here is that it's free of dross. It has no impurities in it. That's the imagery there, that it's free of dross. It's been tested. It has gone through the fire. It stands the test of time. It is free of dross. It is refined. It is pure. So that's serufah. And as you'll notice, it's accented on the last syllable. You see that accent mark there.
Yeah.
The tifcha, which accents the last syllable there. So
Nice.
Just a few thoughts on a few poetic elements as well as grammar.
Amen. Toda rabah. Any questions or any comments? Is Paul with us tonight? Paul was with us last week. He had some questions. We answered some, and we have Willard with us, and as well as anyone else. Have any questions or any comments? And again, this is an amazing opportunity to study this amazing psalm, and week in and week out, we've started from verse 1. We're in chapter 119, verse 137 to 144, and we're going to keep going until we conclude in a couple of weeks, and which will be 176 verses completed. And you see how each of these groupings tell a story, and they're all encouraging testimonies which is, ironic because one of the words that he emphasizes is testimonies, edotecha, your testimonies. And now we have our testimonies. Edoti, would that be my testimony? Testimony is something that we share that is faith affirming, that we grow in the eternal Yahuwah, because the days are growing darker. They're not getting any clearer. They're getting very clouded, and a lot of people are straggling. They're being told things that are not correct, that are improper, that are misleading. Okay, what does it say, William? I'm just absorbing everything that I can, but no questions, not yet. Okay. Okay. Well, it is good that we've come together and to do this once again. The Tsade is a beautiful letter. It has that ts, which like no other letter has that we have in English. There is no ts, so you have to put a TZ or a TS to get that ts sound, which sounds like a writing the symbol. So I'll have to get Enrique from our Brazilian friends, who's got a new drum set. So we'll have to have him play the Tsade. So again, I hope you're appreciating this. Our friend Herman is putting a lot of good work and effort into this, as I have, and our high-tech scoreboard every week is there, filled with hieroglyphs that date back to the early corn days. And I spell that D-A-Z-E as well as D-A-Y-S. There's a corn days, but or maize days. How's that? M-A-I-Z-E, D-A-Z-E, maize days. Anyway, so I'm going to read this through one final time. So again, to get the emphasis of the words as they come together, they come to life. The words are alive. They speak living testimony, living proof of the precepts, of the testimonies, of the laws, of the judgments of the Most High, which are pure. Okay? Righteous are you, O Yahuwah, and upright are your judgments. Your testimonies which you have commanded are righteous and very faithful. My zeal has consumed me because my enemies have forgotten your words. Your word is very pure. Therefore, your servant loves it. I am small and despised, yet I do not forget your precepts. Your righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and your Torah is truth. Trouble and anguish have overtaken me, yet your commandments are my delights. The righteousness of your testimonies is everlasting and gives me understanding, and I shall live.
Amen.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we emerged from the section 144 uplifted. I get understanding, and I shall live. We shall live another day. We shall live another week. And we shall grow in grace and knowledge of the Most High Yahuwah and Mashiach Yeshua. Messiah Yeshua will always be there for us. He will never leave us nor forsake us. We don't step outside of his parameters. It's on us. He's not going to leave us or forsake us. But if we decide to step out on a beautiful day and say, hey, let me stretch my legs and see how far I can go. Just like there are those kids who love their parents, and yet they say, you know what? Let me see how much I can get away with. Let me stretch that whole concept of love and discipline. Let me see where I can go with this. But the Lord is faithful, and he loves us, and he wants us to know him better and to walk in his truth. Amen. Any other final comments before we shut it down, as we're actually just about at the hour time now. We want to do this not quick. We're not racing through this. We want to be able to do this so you fit into your schedule. Our Sabbath services tend to run a longer period of time. Every Sabbath at 11 a.m. we go and we do a message. We do some scripture reading, some liturgy, and a message, roughly an hour and a half, 2 hours message with a lot of details, a lot of details, a lot of scriptures take. So again, every Wednesday evening, we will be here at 7:30 on YouTube as well as on our conference call. So when we sign off over here, we'll be able to communicate and have any other questions going forward. So once again, I'll say any other comments before we stop for the evening? Yep.
I just want to close off with an encouraging word.
Yeah.
I want to encourage each and every one of us to pray our initials. You know that this is a poem that is an acrostic, and every section is represented by a letter. So for those that, their initials, you can pray your initial. Let's suppose your initial is H and R. You can pray the Hey and the Resh. Pray your initials. Use the psalm, this particular psalm, as your prayer book. Pray it. When you're praying these sections, the sections of your initials, use it as a springboard to build on the prayer. I just want to encourage you all to use this psalm. Pray it. Pray your initials. Okay, like in my case, H and Q, which will be the Hey and the Kof. I pray them, and I'm hoping that you would do the same.
Yeah, the Resh and the Kof for me, and also for Regina. So good advice, young man. Good advice. Okay, let's conclude here. Herman, would you do the honors of closing prayer, please?
Alrighty. Father in heaven, Master of the universe, I thank you for this time that you have allowed us to be in your word. We have invested this time in you. Be glorified, be honored. Continue to prepare us, continue to work in our lives, and strengthen us daily.
Yes.
We may walk worthy of your calling.
Yes.
Thank you once again for all that Bob does. Bless each and every one of us with peace and tranquility and light. In Yeshua's name.
Amen.
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 Amen. Okay, so those on the phone, stick around a couple minutes. And we're gonna sign off for the evening on the YouTube again, William. Tomorrow at 2:00, we'll converse, and anyone else get the conference call, and you can also join us in the after. But again, join us. Look on our YouTube channel, and there's a lot of studies there, all the alphabet up to today, and eventually we'll have a complete set of Psalm 119. That's going to be an amazing thing. That's going to be excellent. So again, I thank you for watching, for listening, for communicating. Okay, I got an okay there from her, William. Amen. So be well, be strong, be faithful. Let your emunah be evident to all. Let you be strong, be faithful, and learn the lessons that the psalmist learns each week as he deals with his enemies, as he deals with those who would try to trap him. He still manages to emerge with victory. You know, trouble and anguish have overtaken me, yet your commandments are my delights. I won't be distracted. I won't let these things go by. I might be small and despised, yet I will not forget your precepts. So let's learn the lesson of the psalmist and be grateful. Amen. Have a good night, brother. Or sister, I need to know who you are, your name. Scrupulously honest. So again, we wish you a beautiful evening and a great weekend and a beautiful Shabbat coming up in a few days. And we're coming close to the new year. We're coming close to the Rosh Chodesh, the head of the months, and the Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. So we're coming up, and then we'll be in the midst of Pesach before you know it. So again, watch us for our teachings and interact, communicate to let us know what you think, and be well. And I wish you shalom, shalom, laila tov, ulahitraot, which means good night. And we're gonna check you out later. Okay, bye bye now. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, Willard.